Hi students, how are you? I hope you all are well and safe at your home. Students, as you know that I have started a series of history of English literature, and in this series we are dealing with all the important topics of history of English literature in chronological order. And by now, dear students, we have reached in 19th century. And you know that in my teaching 19th century poetry is my specialization. And post graduation classes, I used to teach 19th century poetry, whether this is romantic poetry or Victorian poetry. Students, so in this video, which is dealing with the 19th century literature, first of all, I want to start the first half of 19th century. Students, as you know, generally 19th century is divided into two parts. The first half of 19th century is called Romantic Age, and the remaining second half is called the Victorian era, the Victorian Age. Students, this is the general criteria on what ground we just separate this age in two parts, but actually the actual time of romantic age is from 1798 to 1837. Students, the reason behind it this, that in 1837 Queen Victoria became the Queen of England. That's why from this time the Victorian age starts. But generally the half of the 19th century, the first half of 19th century is considered as the Romantic Age because the pioneer artist, literary artist, the founder of a Romantic Age, William Wordsworth, actually died in 1850, and he has started the Romantic movement in formal way in English literature, especially in 19th century. So when he died, the few literary critics considers that this is the time of the end of Romantic period. That's why few says that this is 1937 when Romantic age ended and the Victorian age started, and few says that this is 1850 when Romantic age just comes to an end and Victorian age starts. So this is the time period of Romantic age. Now we are proceeding in our lecture. Students, first of all, this is very necessary to understand about the word romanticism. Actually, whenever we are in the class and I ask, while I am just giving my lecture on romanticism, so generally I ask, what is romanticism? So this is my personal experience that on the faces of the students, a kind of smile just appears. I watch kind of a smile when they listen romantic, the word romantic or romanticism. And on the basis of that smile, we guess that the understanding level of those students is very limited, very narrow about romantic approach, about romantic or romanticism. And then I used to just tell them that students, this is not limited only to the kisses of boyfriend and girlfriend. This is not limited to the love talks. This is not limited in the relation of lover and beloved. But actually this is a serious subject of English literature, and not of English literature, but as you have studied in Hindi literature, Swachhandavad or the Chayavad. So that is also the same thing. To make the students of starting classes who are just starting their study in English literature, to make them well understand, so I used to just make them understand in this way that just imagine that your heart is a glass, and in that glass, when you put the description of nature, imagination, and emotion, the mixture of nature, emotion, and imagination, in very simple way you can understand, when you mix up in the glass of your heart three things: the description of nature, emotion, and imagination, so the final result, the final mixture, what comes out of your mouth in the pieces of a verse, in the pieces of prose, any kind of description, especially in easy language, in common language, whatever product comes before you, so that is romantic. And this romanticism can be in the begging of a beggar, when a beggar is begging and he is just using these three components in his begging, so it can be romantic. Even a lorry, when a mother is trying to make her baby sleep, that can also be romantic. Even a hermit, even a saint who is worshipping in the temple, in the church, in the mosque, that can also be romantic. Even when someone is just weeping on the death of someone, it can also be romantic. So students, this is necessary to understand that romanticism is an approach of language, of description, which is just surrounded the nature, the emotion, the imagination, the passion, what you are just expressing. So when all these things are just included, to the final result what comes in the form of literature, that is romanticism, and that is romantic approach. Students, actually William Wordsworth has founded it in the final part of 18th century, when 18th century was going to be ended and 19th century was about to come. So at that time romantic age was started with the publication of lyrical ballads. You know students, that William Wordsworth was born in 1770, and this was the time when 18th century, the age of sensibility, the age of Johnson was going on. But at that time William Wordsworth was not so fluent and influential in literary field. But when he grew young and he developed his literary approach, so he has visited France in 1791, yes, in 1791, and by some on account of some financial problem he returned from France in 1792. And students, you should know that this was the time of French Revolution, which took place in England in 1789. You can note down this point, that French Revolution is very important thing, a remarkable thing in English literature, which can be, ultimately we can say that, which is responsible for romantic approach in English literature. So many other things. The approach of Rousseau, Return to the Nature, you know, that 18th century poetry, what you call neoclassical poetry, which was based on some artificiality, on set standards, The standards of classicism were being followed in those days. Whether this was Alexander Pope, whether this was John Dryden, whether this was John Donne, they all the literary great men of that period were following some certain limitation, you can say. They have set fundamentals, they have a boundary, they have confined themselves in those ideas that we will just confine ourselves only in classical patterns we will follow. Only we will show the outer face of the society, only artificial face of the society. We will concern, our concerns will be only the aristocratic families, only the city life. But dear students, in the second half, when the influence of Rousseau came, who has said that artificiality is nothing, but you are supposed to return to the nature. So this has made a great impact on the men of England, especially on William Wordsworth like poets, William Wordsworth like men. Not only Rousseau's philosophy, but also French Revolution, which was giving the masses to the world. And this message was the message of democratic ideas. Men were struggling for the democracy. Means it was the thinking of the men that our society, our state, our nation must be on the label of common men. It must not be only the nation of aristocrats and higher class of society. They have a very nice slogan, French Revolution. Ultimately, we can say that this is the slogan of French Revolution: fraternity, equality, and liberty. There should be a uniformity in the society. There should be the meaning of common men even. Only higher class of society must not be meaningful in the society, must not be dominant in the society, but in the society, the common men must have some certain identity. So all these things has influenced this very great man, especially the group of those kinds of men who were like William Wordsworth, who were like S.T. Coleridge. So they have started thinking about a different kind of social approach, and they have adapted that social approach in their literature, which was very much different from the approach of 18th century neoclassical age. Students, when in 1792 he returned, he was very much influenced by this French Revolution, the concepts of French Revolution, the influence of French Revolution, and the what result was going on in French Revolution. He was very much influenced by that. And in 1795 he met S.T. Coleridge. And the association of S.T. Coleridge and William Wordsworth just converted into the milestone of English literature. They thought that we should make a experiment in the society, especially in literary field. And for that experiment, they have published their creations. First in the form of lyrical ballads. Actually, lyrical ballads was the collection of 23 poems which were written in lyrical ballads. Lyrical means a musical. You know, lyric means a musical song, a kind of poem which is sung on some certain musical instrument, some musical quality, some lyrical quality what has. And ballad means an emotional poem which is written in story form with an unexpected, uncertain end, a dramatic end. The end what you cannot expect, that kind of end if it take place in a lyrical poem which is in story form, so that is called a ballad. The 23 ballads were published in a book form in the association of St. Coleridge and William Wordsworth in 1798. Students, you must keep in your mind that this was the milestone of English literature, and with the publication of lyrical ballads in 1798, this is the starting of romanticism and romantic movement and romantic era and romantic age in English literature with the publication of lyrical ballads. Students, some important thing I want to just tell you, that when first lyrical ballads was published, so there was no name on this lyrical ballad, neither the name of William Wordsworth nor the name of St. Coleridge. Only 23 ballads were only there with a short preface. This is experiment. This is experimental composition what I want to put in the society to understand whether the men of this society is ready to accept it, or they are even now in the mood of 18th century neoclassical poetry. Whether they are ready to understand the poems just concerning over the nature aspects, the poetry over emotional aspects, the poetry which is written in the language of common men, the men are ready or not. This was a experiment what they have made, and really it became successful. You should know that among those 23 poems, only 4 poems by St. Coleridge and remaining 19 poems were by William Wordsworth. You should know that the first poem of lyrical ballad is Rime of Ancient Mariner, what you have studied, I think. Yes, in 19th century poetry I have taught you the Rime of Ancient Mariner. This was the first poem, and the last poem is Tintern Abbey by William Wordsworth. Now it started a romantic movement. Students, now I am to tell you that sometimes you listen romantic revival. Why this period is called romantic revival? The students, the reason behind it, actually this is not the first time where romanticism is there in the literature, but actually in Elizabethan age and earlier before even, romantic approach was there in the society, especially in literature. Even William Shakespeare, Christopher Marlowe, Philip Sidney, Edmund Spenser, they all were the romantic. They have the same kind of romantic approach. But during the 17th century, when Puritans were there in the society with some certain status standards, and even in 18th century, so the romantic approach was totally disappeared from literature. And all of a sudden, with the effort of William Wordsworth, it came again in the literature. So this is not the first time, but this is the revival, means again this is coming in literature. That's why this is called the romantic revival. I think this is clear. And next important thing, that this was the first edition of lyrical ballads, which was published in 1798, and it has 4 editions. It was secondly published in 1800 with a preface to lyrical ballads, and thirdly it was in 1802, and final edition was published in 1805. Now when the second edition of lyrical ballads came, it came with a preface. That's why this portion is called Preface to Lyrical Ballads. And students, you should know that Preface to Lyrical Ballads, on the second edition only single name was there on that book. It was the name of William Wordsworth, because William Wordsworth has credit to just add this preface in lyrical ballads. And this Preface to Lyrical Ballad is also called the Manifesto of Romantic Age. Now the question is this, why Preface to Lyrical Ballads is called the Manifesto of Romantic Age? The students, if you have an interest in politics, you have heard manifesto of this party, manifesto of that party. The manifesto of Congress party has been released. The manifesto of Samajwadi party has been released. The manifesto of BJP has been released. So, if you just relate that, you will come to know that actually those political parties declare their plan and policies, कि what policy they have and what they are going to just give in the society, to serve in the society, what policies they will adopt for the society, what plan they have for the society. That's why that is called the manifesto, that you call Bhushana Patra. The very same kind of thing. Actually, what kind of poetry, what kind of poetic subject, what kind of area of poetry, area of literature, what kind of language and diction this romantic poetry is going to serve in the society, how different this poetry and how different this approach they are going to serve in the society in the form of lyrical ballads and romantic poetry. So all those concepts they have mentioned in that. That's why this is called the Manifesto of Romantic Age. And students, you know that William Wordsworth was a poet, actually a poet. Basically he was poet. By heart he was poet. He was not a critic. But because of this preface to lyrical ballads, he is also a critic. He is also known as great critic. Because his preface to lyrical ballads is actually a piece of criticism. What kind of poetry should be, what is the definition of poetry, he has described here. That's why this is called the preface to lyrical ballads and manifesto of romantic age, my dear students. Now, I want to add here, when the journey of romanticism was started, so many great poets were there in this age. Here I want to add you that actually the seed of romanticism was earlier shown by some romantic poets already. Means before William Wordsworth, in the final phase of 18th century, few writers were already there who had started just accepting the approach of romanticism. And those writers are called pre-romantic poets, and among them William Collins is there, Thomas Gray is, and you should know that Thomas Gray and William Collins like poets, they have just put the seed of romanticism there because their poetry has all the things what were just later on developed by William Wordsworth, S.T. Coleridge, P.B. Shelley, Byron, Scott, and Shelley like poets. They are these pre-romantic poets like Gray and Collins, they are also called the graveyard poets. Means their poetry has seriousness, and grave means seriousness. They have seriousness, they have the romantic approach, they have the different kind of approach for the nature, they have very marvelous description of nature in their poetry. So they have just put the seed, and later on it was developed, well developed by the generation of romantics, romantic poets. You know that actually in romantic age there are two generations of romantic poets. In the first generation of romantic poets, William Wordsworth is there, S.T. Coleridge is there, Robert Southey is there. Here I want to just tell you, actually we have so many concepts of romantic age, being the specialization I have in romantic poetry. Actually Robert Southey was the poet laureate of England, and after Southey, William Wordsworth became the poet laureate. Poet laureate, you know, Raj Kavi. William Wordsworth became the Raj Kavi of England, poet laureate after Robert Southey, and it was 1843 from 18. And you should know that for this great post, William Wordsworth, first of all, denied that I am too old. My body is not allowing me to just take the responsibility of poet laureate. But on the request of the courtiers, he had accepted, and from 1843 to 1850, he was the poet laureate. And after him, in Victorian age, your Alfred Lord Tennyson became the poet laureate. And here I want to just tell you that if anybody asks you who is the first poet laureate of England, it was John Dryden. John Dryden, you know John Dryden, yes, Restoration period, yes, exactly. So students, these are the things. Now in Romantic era, there are two generations of Romantic poets, Romantic artists. The first generation was of William Wordsworth, H.T. Coleridge, Southey, like great poets. And the next generation is the generation of P.B. Shelley, Byron, John Keats. They are called the second generation of Romantic poets. Now, students, I want to discuss some important qualities, some important features of a Romantic age. Ki what are the characteristic of Romantic age? Means the literature what was produced in 19th century, in 19th century first half, in Romantic age. So what are the features of that literature? What are the qualities of that literature? What were the concepts they have followed in their poems, in their essays, in their novels? So I want to discuss that. Students, these features, what I will tell you, actually very special thing I am just telling you, that these qualities, these features are not the features are not the characteristic of only a single literary artist. This is the characteristic of William Wordsworth, this is the characteristic of John Keats, this is the character of the essays of Charles Lamb, this is the quality of Hazlitt. Actually, whatever point I will discuss, the most of the points will be applicable for all literary ideals of Romantic age. Whether this is William Wordsworth, whether this is John Keats, whether this is P.B. Shelley. And even in the essayists of this age, you know, that few great essayists were also there in this age. You can never forget the name of Charles Lamb, who is called the prince among English essayists. Means if king was Bacon, if the father of English essay was Francis Bacon, the only next Charles Lamb is called the prince among English essayists. So he also belongs to Romantic age, and the kind of approach what he has adopted in his essays, so that is Romantic approach, the same kind of emotional approach, the same kind of description of nature and spontaneity, what is the quality of Romantic poetry. So all these things he has followed, and the same thing has been followed by William Hazlitt also. William Hazlitt also belongs to this very era, especially in the field of essays. He has also just adopted autobiographical and subjective approach, and the description of nature nobody can forget in the essays of Hazlitt. You have studied, I think, in previous, yes. Walter Scott, nobody can forget the influence of Walter Scott in this era. Great novelist he was. He was a great novelist who has influenced English literature, especially in Romantic age, for his description of supernatural elements. So he is a great novelist, and he has written essays also. William Scott, very nice literary personality. So these are the great writers, and they have almost all those qualities what I will discuss in the form of the character of Romantic age. So I think, students, we will start it, and we will start it. I think this video is going too long. That's why I will start the characteristic of Romantic poetry in the next video. Thank you very much.